Welcome to the IDP Plus podcast. I'm Johnny. I'm your host. You can find my work on Twitter at JohnnyFreakinF1. On this episode, we're going to talk about IDP Sleepers going into the 2025 season, specifically looking at defensive backs. So stick with me and we'll get right to it. So finding sleepers is paramount in coming out on top of your redraft fantasy football leagues. Let's flash forward to 2024. Some guys that were drafted early: Julian Love, Kyle Hamilton, Xavier McKinney. These were guys all offseason last year. We were talking about as top 5 defensive back dynasty players. You know what? Brandon Jones, he and tackle heavy scoring outscored Julian Love. Kevin Byard, these guys were pickups, outscored Kyle Hamilton in tackle heavy scoring. Xavier Woods, another waiver wire darling, outscored Xavier McKinney. So not only in defensive backs, we see this a lot with defensive backs, but I'm going to preach to you. I'm going to go one step further. Just IDP as a whole. Go into the season weak, especially the more shallow your league is. Go into the season with weak IDP players. That's what I'm here for. That's what the IDP Plus team is here for. We're here to give you the best information. Breakout players, these sleepers that turn into breakout players. And also, number 2 is if everyone has great starters on IDP, let them, because they're probably looking at it like, hey, I don't need to make any moves. I'm not looking in the waiver wires for defensive players. You don't even have to spend a waiver wire on them. You can pick them up as free agents as we go. You would have ended with guys that I had mentioned: Brandon Jones, Kevin Byard, Xavier Woods. Think about your Zach Bonds, Diane Henleys, Jamian Sherwoods. Those guys were from waivers for the most part in shallow leagues last year. So fade IDP. You're here watching this video. That's what's going to get you on top. Let's see if we could get these 5 sleepers I have into breakouts. Things got to go right in the preseason, but so far so good. We're going to start off looking at one of my favorite sleepers this season coming into 2025, and that's Tykee Smith. Tykee Smith, I'm not the first to say it, I'll admit it, but no, I back up the noise. Tykee Smith, you might remember him as a slot cornerback last year. He's definitely flying under the radar in Yahoo, even though he's expected to make the switch to strong safety next to Antoine Winfield Jr. Yahoo right now, I know that Yahoo doesn't come up with IDP rankings. You can't type that in on Google and find Yahoo IDP rankings, but what you can do is go to your given Yahoo league and look at the projections. Look who they project to, at any given position, have the most points. Right now, Yahoo has Tykee Smith pegged as 95th, and that's, of course, in tackle heavy scoring, but 95th. In a 16-man, he wouldn't even get drafted, specifically looking at defensive back. So way under the radar right now. Now, I've done some sleeper mock drafts. The IDP tipster, Gary Van Dyke, if you know him, I'm sure you do. He runs some breast cancer awareness leagues that are still going on, so you can still hop in those to play. But I've seen Tykee Smith go, when we talk at defensive backs, in the mid-30s, which I think is a fair range right now. Some people, some true IDP heads out there, are definitely drinking the Kool-Aid, and rightfully so. But I don't think casuals are on to Tykee Smith. Yahoo, their rankings when it comes to IDP, I'll call it casual, and they have him right inside the top 100. So he's an afterthought to most people right now. But Tykee Smith, I don't think it's going to stay that way for long, especially once the season pops off. Like I had mentioned, he's supposed to be the strong safety next to Antoine Winfield. I'm not here to preach to you to say that you should draft Tykee Smith over Antoine Winfield or value him such. Not the case at all. But Tykee Smith, I do think, is somebody that can come near to eclipsing 100 tackles, if not a little bit more, and surprise us. When we look at last season, this is good. People aren't looking at this and writing it down. 2024 as a whole, 13 games played, 71% of defensive snaps. So, what the snaps weren't there. People aren't going to buy into him looking at bankability on snaps, looking at last year. In those 13 games, he had 54 tackles. Again, nothing to really write home about. However, 38 of those were solo, so we're keeping eyes on that. Also did have 3 forced fumbles and 2 interceptions. So he is a splash player. He was playing that slot corner role, but keep in mind, Jordan Whitehead, If Jordan Whitehead was the safety and Tykee Smith was at slot corner again, I'd have a lot of faith in Jordan Whitehead. We've seen the proof in the pudding. We've seen him come close to 100 tackles, a couple interceptions. Jordan Whitehead was definitely inside the top 32 safeties a year ago, and more than that. But Jordan Whitehead is gone, and if we can kind of mimic his role here, last season Jordan Whitehead played 12 games. He had 79 tackles, nice close average to 6.5 tackles per game. Now Tykee Smith didn't average or come close to that last season, but in the Whitehead role, I do think it's not out of the realm that Tykee can average that 6.5 tackles per game. Now, are we going to say he's going to have 5 forced fumbles and 4 or 5 interceptions? I don't think you can, bank on that. But if he keeps that, right, if the snaps go from 71% to about 85, 90%, I think those 3 forced fumbles and 2 interceptions have some staying power, if not room to grow more. Now, a big caveat that I was reading about Tykee Smith in the offseason was, what are the Bucs going to do when it comes to drafts? They did not re-sign Jordan Whitehead. The writing was on the wall for Tykee Smith to stay in the slot corner position if the Bucs drafted a safety, but they did not. They instead drafted a cornerback, which is leading us to believe that right now they're pretty comfortable with Tykee Smith, not only giving him a test drive at the strong safety position, but they doubled down and they went and drafted a cornerback. I think Christian Yen is going to be the starting slot corner as of right now, and that leaves Tykee Smith in the perfect role. We want him as the strong safety. I wouldn't, go ahead and say he's a defensive back one. Again, he's not anywhere near the value that Winfield should give you, but still, I mean, the PFF grade checks out last year if that's your kind of thing. Overall, 70 grade. His run defense was tremendous, 88%, and that makes sense. I'll get to that in a minute. And coverage was decent at 69%, good number there. But specifically, I want to look at 2 weeks. So week 5 and week 9. One of those weeks, Jordan Whitehead was hurt, and Tykee Smith played 99% in that week 5 matchup. So he played just about every snap, missed 1 snap, 9 solo tackles, and 2 assists, right? And I was writing about him in waiver wire. And follow me on Twitter to get my weekly waiver wire pickups for each position. But I was tweeting about him. I thought maybe there was some staying power, with him playing that position. But Whitehead came back, and Tykee Smith got moved to that reserve role for a couple weeks. Then we actually see some, staying power with the tackles come week 9. He plays 85% of snaps. He has 8 solo tackles recorded and 1 assist for a combined of 9 tackles. So, I mean, 2 games, the 2 games this guy played over 85%, the other being 99%. We have an 11 tackle game and a 9 tackle game. And don't forget about those 3 forced fumbles and 2 interceptions. So we've definitely seen glimpses of Tykee Smith. I would right now peg him as a Jordan Whitehead, maybe with more upside. So Jordan Whitehead never eclipsed that 100 tackle combined mark in the Buccaneers, for any team for him, but he came damn close. And I think that Tykee Smith, again, we might get about the same production with a little more upside there. So I definitely think Tykee Smith. I'm not going to say you need to draft him inside the top 34, but on this sleeper league, I got a lot of IDP sharks in here, and he only went 35th. So right now, still relatively quiet, a low price tag to pay for Tykee Smith. I know I'm here blowing up the spot, and you guys are like, shh, don't give away. But no, I just wanted to talk about him and reiterate that, I agree with the trajectory that he's on to becoming a breakout player in 2025. Moving on to my second guy. Now, this guy is definitely a household name in the IDP community at this point already. You're going to have to pay absolutely a higher price tag, and that's Jaden Hicks from the Kansas City Chiefs. Yahoo has him ranked already at 24. Sleeper drafts in. I've seen him go 35, 39 in another draft. So, right now he's definitely somebody who, Yahoo has him at the top 24. Props to them for finding him. But at the same time, there might be leagues out there that you have to kind of search for his name. He's not going to, the consensus is kind of deceiving on him. And that's what happened there in Sleeper too. But again, 24 is high. I'm not drafting him really any further than that. If he goes to say 18, 19, I'm really not touching him. I will, let people jump at that point, and I'll get back to that in a minute. But let's look at the good with Jaden Hicks here. Reason to be excited. So he played about 30% of defensive snaps in 2024, his rookie year, which 30% is almost nothing. That's not even a third of these snaps. Recorded 23 solo tackles, 6 assists, which that was a nice split. He's almost getting 4 times the solo tackles than he is the assists. But still, in 17 games, only 29 tackles, nothing to write home about there. 3 tackles for loss, 5 passes defense, and 3 interceptions. So the splash plays were there, albeit in a small sample size. Now, kind of one thing that scares me, and I know he was playing a completely different role last year. Again, he was kind of like that Tykee Smith slot cornerback for the Chiefs, but only 4 games with 3 or more tackles in 2024. I'll say that again, only 4 games with 3 or more tackles last year. But again, he was playing that slot nickel role. PFF, that checks out, right? We think that not only if you're following PFF pretty hard. I more so use it for the sense of, is the team comfortable with him in not looking at fantasy, but in real life, right? Yeah, I do think the Chiefs are content with him. He, as a rookie, 72 overall, 72 grade against the run, and 72 grade in coverage. So that checks the bill there. I don't think this, to say, oh, that's 72% is pretty low. It's just a C average. I mean, for a rookie, this is pretty good. I think highest overall grade out of my 5 breakout here, defensive backs. So Jaden Hicks checks the box in real life for sure. Now the news about him is he's going to replace Justin Reed, who was not re-signed. He's going to play the strong safety role next to, as of right now, maybe Brian Cook. But my question is I understand all the hype that this player's, Jaden Hicks is a really solid player, but replacing Reed, well, who the heck was Reed, honestly? He didn't eclipse 100 tackles in the 3 seasons he was with the Chiefs. Granted, there was the last 2 years, 2024 and 2023, Justin Reed did have, 2 or 3 sacks, a couple of interceptions, so the splash plays were there. But I'm not rocking with guys that aren't getting, 100 or more tackles. So I really am a little skeptical on this Jaden Hicks movement. I do think that the Chiefs will be thrown upon. They'll be up in games. They should be, at least, and teams should throw on them. But they were up in games last year, and Justin Reed didn't hit 100 tackles. So I'm not looking at this. Again, one of the reasons why I'm hesitant about him going further than 24. 24, sure, take a shot. Maybe those splash plays increase, and maybe he does eclipse 100 tackles. He'd be a tremendous value at that point. I call him a high upside defensive back too, especially at strong safety. But keep in mind, the price is rising. So this is before training camp, and he's already on Yahoo on the map at 24. And this is important because I play with fans that are deep diving into stuff and fans that are casuals, and the casuals are looking at that whatever given platform you're using, and that's what they're using their information. That's how they're finding these guys. So the fact that Yahoo already has him inside the top 24 is pretty discouraging, but rightfully so. So kind of gauge it out in the drafts. If you're really high on Jaden Hicks, I understand the hype. But for me, somebody who's a vet in IDP and especially focusing on tackles, when he didn't have he only had 3 or more tackles in 4 games. Again, he played the full season, so that was even a little bit less than a quarter of the games. Doesn't really inspire a lot of confidence in me. But again, if you get him for a cheap price, roll into week 1. Last season, I rolled in with Javon Holland as a week 1 starter. Looking at week 17, by the end of the year in the playoffs, I was rolling with Brandon Jones and Jordan Battle. So don't take the Antoine Winfields early. Don't take Derwin James early. Let these guys kind of fall to you. And if you get your offense, fit out, you have a nice bench to make trades in the season, a nice bench to protect yourself. Then you can go look at guys like Jaden Hicks and Tykee Smith. Before we move on, I wanted to mention Bob Lung. I'm sure you're familiar with that name. He is one of the guys who runs the Fantasy Football Expo. Right now, he is selling his Fantasy Football Consistency Guide on Amazon for $15. So make sure you go check that out. Get a leg up on your opponents with his 10th annual edition of the Fantasy Football Consistency Guide for 2025. Again, $15 on Amazon. Just search 2025 Fantasy Football Consistency Guide. And I was really hoping that we can get a consistency guide from Bob as far as defensive backs, because these guys are all over the place. But without further ado, we're going to look at the number 3 guy, and this is no particular order. You can make a case that number 3 should be ranked higher than number 2 or number 1, but number 3 as it stands is Jaylon Carlies from the Indianapolis Colts right now. I'm pretty bullish on him, predominantly because he's listed as a defensive back and a linebacker. If I'm hoping to draft Carlies, it's going to be as a defensive back because, of course, we don't see the tackle ratio from the D-backs as heavy as the linebackers. But let's talk about Carlies for a little bit. As it stands right now, Yahoo tackle heavy scoring, he is ranked 67th in defensive backs. Afterthought completely. This is somebody who, if you're playing in shallow leagues and we just went off the rankings, is not going to get drafted, which is encouraging. You can use one of your last round picks on him. Keep in mind, as the preseason unfolds and he becomes, if he holds down the job and he graduates from sleeper to breakout player, the price tag's sure to raise up. You just don't know where it's going to land. Sleeper, I've done a couple drafts. Those breast cancer awareness drafts. I've seen him. I'm in one right now we're in the 12th round. He hasn't been selected yet, but another one that has finished. He went 25th as far as defensive backs. So, pretty low price tag here for Jaylon Carlies, and especially for a defensive back who were able to look at the price tag for Travis Hunter. I mean, I've seen him go first off the board in IDP strictly drafts. So, I mean, Jaylon Carlies is a guy who has that game-changing, eligibility. And I do think that there's a world where Jaylon Carlies can absolutely get more defensive points, tackles than Travis Hunter. Of course, you're rostering Hunter for his offensive game. I don't believe in Hunter like that. I would not take him over Zaire Franklin, some of the big dogs, but that's a story for another time. Jaylon Carlies last season played 10 games. I believe he had a fractured fibula, something like that, and that's a caveat with him. He was a college safety at Missouri. Now he's going to get a look at linebacker. I don't know if he can hold up for that. Did have some problems with missed tackles last season, but in those 10 games, nothing really to write home about. 36 tackles, pass defense, a sack, and 2 tackles for loss, and that's kind of good. We're looking at our chops looking at those stats because most of the casuals are glancing right over that. They're saying, this guy didn't really, play many snaps. He was hurt. He has it. He's changing positions. So let the haters hate. When we look at Week 16, that's the game we want to look at specifically. Jaylon Carlies was healthy for that one. EJ Speed was out. That's the highest snap percentage that Carlies played all year, and it was basically a quick, clean substitute. EJ Speed snaps, EJ Speed production, 98% of defensive snaps, and 10 total tackles, 6 solos, and 4 assists. So there is a world that we can live in where we just sub in EJ Speed's production. I know EJ Speed kind of fell off last year. Towards the end, he started off, I think, with 3 or 4 double-digit tackle games, but faded towards the end of the season, especially with that knee injury. But we don't even let's be honest. To say that he has EJ Speed's season at 142 tackles and 98% of snaps played, that's a lot to ask for, ladies and gentlemen. Let's be modest with expectations. He's got to stay healthy the whole year. He's got to keep the job. A lot of things have to go right here for the perfect storm. But as it is right now, I see no reason why Jaylon Carlies from that linebacker position can't give you 120 tackles. And especially when you're playing him as a defensive back, that solid becomes elite. So Jaylon Carlies here, props to him on defying odds, and they did not sign any vet linebackers to kind of muddy things up there right now. So as it stands going into this preseason, Carlies is definitely on the ascension to graduate and become a breakout player. My next guy at number 4, this is kind of my guy here, right? Because I've seen other videos out there great IDP minds talking about these three guys I had mentioned before, Carlies, Hicks, and Tykee Smith, but I really don't hear, maybe I'm dead wrong, but I really don't hear anybody talking about Demani Richardson. And this could be a huge mistake for a lot of people out there if you don't, get with him and kind of make him your last round pick. Demani Richardson, I'm not going to sit here and say that he's going to play starting role the whole week 1 through week 18. He's an undrafted free agent after all. We didn't get a whole lot of glimpse from him last year, and they did draft Lathan. What's his name? Lathan Ranson in the 4th round. Albeit 4th round is tough to make a splash immediately. But Demani Richardson, undrafted, and kind of made a splash immediately. So, there's a lot of gray area with this one, but the upside I think is higher than most of your guys that you're getting, especially this late. Demani Richardson right now on Yahoo is the lowest of the low out of any name I'll mention here. He's at 114 overall as far as defensive backs, and on Sleeper, I was the only one to draft him in those breast cancer awareness leagues, and I was getting him outside the top 50 defensive backs. So really 22nd, 21st round for me, but I am bullish on him. Demani Richardson, when we look at it as a whole on the season, 51 tackles, tackle for loss, interception, and pass defense. Just looks like the other guys, right? Nothing really flashes off the page. Well, again, people are going to look at that and take a lot of, put a lot of focus on that and kind of get lost in the sauce. But Demani Richardson did not play a defensive snap from week 1 to week 7. Week 8, he comes in. I believe that's when Nick Scott, they kind of made the change of the guard there. Week 8, week 9, both games played 100% of D snaps. In those first 2 starts, 12 tackles, 11 tackles, and a pass defense. So collectively in 2 games, 23 tackles and a pass defense. I thought he was a waiver wire gem. I picked him up. I started him the next week. I don't know if I exactly started him. I don't think he was starting, so I held him, but kept him on the bench. And basically for the next 6 weeks, went back to being a part-time player from weeks 10 to 15. Really killed the vibe there. We really thought we had something. And then week 16 through 18, he came back in that starting role. Played in those last 3 games, collectively 98% of snaps, so absolutely was a bona fide starter. And in those last 3 games, 25 combined tackles, an interception, and a tackle for loss. So, those first 2 games was averaging over 10 tackles a game. The last 3 averaged right over 8 tackles a game. So Demani Richardson, this guy, when he played, the 98, 100, 4 games with 100% snaps, and the 5th game with 98, he had 48 combined tackles. So once again, 48 combined tackles in just 5 games. That's almost 10 tackles a game. What more could you ask? And I'm not really, I wasn't a college football player. I was a kicker in high school, not one to break down film, but I do watch guys break down film and I'm going to learn off them. You should too, absolutely. And there's guys from Carolina that I'm watching them talk about Demani Richardson, videos on Twitter, videos on Google. And one thing they say about him is it wasn't really reflected in the PFF rankings. Let's see if I have that written down here. I don't exactly have the PFF written down, but Demani Richardson, they said that he's really adept at making open field tackles. And we can see the splash plays, the interception late in the year. Keep in mind he is playing free safety, and usually that kind of turns us off. But don't get lost in that. There's guys out there. Buda Baker led the league as far as defensive backs in tackles last season. Kevin Byard. These guys play free safety. Xavier Woods, who was there last year, all play free safety, and they all had well over 100 tackles. So I definitely think there's high upside here. I know they signed Trayvon Merrick, but to me it's a fine signing. It's not like they signed somebody who I think is going to set the world on fire. So I definitely think there's 6 to 8 tackle per game ability here for Demani Richardson. And while we're here, I just wanted to give a shout out to Xavier Woods. Didn't exactly make my list, but definitely while we're on the topic of him, he might be another guy that you want to, late last round dart throw. If you're zero defensive back strategy for you, Xavier would be a good gamble too. Career high of 119 tackles with Carolina last year in that free safety role. So 119 for Xavier Woods as a 29-year-old vet. Why can't it be Demani Richardson this season? So absolutely, this is a last round guy. I'm not saying if you're really trying to win week one, start him with confidence. Probably keep him on the bench if you have room. But Demani Richardson is definitely one of those guys. The Brandon Jones of the world, Kevin Byard, could be one of those guys. So this is my personal kind of breakout guy. Somebody who in just about every league I'm going to be drafting, especially the deeper ones too. So let me know what you think in the comments about Demani Richardson. And finally, my fifth guy here is Ifeatu Melifonwu from the Miami Dolphins. Now, if you've been playing IDP for a while, of course you know the name. It's tough to say, but it's not tough to watch because in 2023 we watched this guy wreak havoc in your fantasy playoffs. I know he did one game against me, week 15 through 18. He had, let's see, that's 15, 16, 17. That's 4 games. He had 22 tackles, nothing really to write home about, just between 6 and 7 tackles. But he did have 3 sacks and 2 interceptions. This is somebody who we're looking at to play the strong safety role. Before Minkah Fitzpatrick got signed, it was looking like him, and it was looking like Ashton Davis. I'm not sure how the preseason will shake out, what the results of that will be. But if I had to put money on it right now, I'm saying that Minkah Fitzpatrick is the starting free safety. And I do think that Melifonwu is going to be the starting safety. And keep in mind, looking at the numbers game, they did give, I believe, Ashton Davis was a 1-year, $2 million contract. Well, Melifonwu's was 1 year as well, but it was $4 million. So more money invested in him. Of course, if you're like me and you like to play Madden, who you picking, Ashton Davis or Melifonwu? Age is also on Melifonwu's side. He's 26, Ashton Davis 28. And Ashton Davis, we've seen him have splashes in New York, but really no staying power. We pick him up, 10 tackle game. Next game he starts, plays the same snaps, and it's 4 tackles. So I'm not really on the Ashton Davis train at all. As a matter of fact, Yahoo and Sleeper both are. I believe Sleeper has Ashton Davis as a top 15 defensive back, while Yahoo has him right inside the top 20. Let him. Hopefully, Yahoo and Sleeper don't make adjustments to those rankings because as it stands right now, Melifonwu is going outside the top 50 on both platforms. So this is another last round dart throw. And listen, Melifonwu, he's had injuries. He was a converted cornerback. There's definitely cracks in the foundation. But what we've seen those last 3 games for Detroit in 2023 inspires a lot of confidence. And I do think that, that Miami instilled overkill here with the defensive backs. Last year, Jordan Poyer, and I forget the other defensive back they had. Javon Holland, both not there anymore, did not re-sign them. They were thinking they needed a complete revamp in the defensive back safety position, and that's what they got. So, Minkah Fitzpatrick, I'm glad he's signed. We know where he's going to play. I don't want to, start Melifonwu if he's playing free safety. But as it stands right now, he's probably most likely going to be in that starting safety role. If not, maybe a slot corner and maybe can make some impact there. But I'm drafting him on the assumption that he is going to win that starting safety job and be a week 1 starter. So that, again, another player to, if you want to throw defensive backs, not draft the Derwin James, not draft, Brian Branches of the world. Sit back here. Get guys like Melifonwu, Xavier Woods, Demani Richardson, Jaylon Carlies, Tykee Smith, and Jaden Hicks. Before we go, I just wanted to mention one more thing. Right now, you get your Fantasy Football 2025 tickets. You can meet me personally there. I will be in Canton. Go get your tickets at thefantasyfootballexpo.com from August 8th through the 10th in, of course, Canton, Ohio. And also check out the new fan packages. You too can join us and the other well-known content creators at the NFL Hall of Fame Village. So, hey, come get my autograph. You'd be the first one who asked. But no, in all seriousness, come to the Fantasy Football Expo. Last year was my first time. I was licking my chops to come back this year, and you might just see me on a panel or see me at the booth. So, again, if you have any, thank you for viewing and watching. If you have any comments, questions, put them down in the comments tags, and I'll get back to you. Until next time, we're going to break down defensive linemen on the next episode. Yeah, we're going to do 3 episodes of these IDP sleepers preseason. This was defensive backs. Next, you're getting defensive linemen. And finally, we'll say the best for last with linebackers. Until next time, be safe and bless up.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.